Oh, good morning. It's Barbara. Thank you for joining me for coffee. We can't be outside today because it's really, really noisy out there because everybody's generator is going. We got home yesterday from State College, and I'll tell you all about it. 3 hours later, our power went out, and it's been out, and they just announced they don't expect it to be back up again until tomorrow night at 11. Christy and Rich come tomorrow. Well, they live in Mississippi. I guess they're used to being hot. So, we have a generator. I just canceled the cleaning service. They were supposed to be coming today. Because we do power some of the, I've told you this before, because this is not the first power outage you've been with me for. We do, oh, this tastes good. My first coffee. Our generator goes into our power grid and powers some of our circuits, but it doesn't power any of the guest rooms. Well, the guest rooms, when we did that, are now Aura's rooms, so there's no power in Aura's rooms at all. So she can't even have a fan in there. And, oh, our electrician is our neighbor. Maybe we could add some plugs at least in her room. I don't know. Anyway, so she's up there having her coffee while she's looking out the window at the birds and coming down as soon as she feels like she needs to sit in a fan. So we have power mostly down here for most of the plugs, not all of them. Most of the lights, not all of them. The microwave and the ceiling fan in the kitchen. And Dennis brought up a fan. So we have little fans that we can use. But no stove, no air conditioning, of course. We don't even have the TV system on it because it draws a lot of power. So she can come down and sit in the fan and read a book. That's the plan. So not until tomorrow night. So we're going to be pretty toasty by the time Chris and Rich come, but they live in Mississippi. They should be used to that, right? We only have enough gasoline for 6 hours or so, Dennis thinks, so he has to make a run and find some place that has electricity, some gas station, so he can get gas. It's quite widespread in our county. Tens of thousands of people without power. Houses without power, including us. But the neighbors have generators too, so it's noisy outside. And my gizmo says, you can't see the whole thing, it's 78 out there now. It's 77 in here. It was 76 earlier. So we're gonna end up warm. But opening the windows is not an option. I just got a text back. I'm pretty sure she said, okay, because I canceled Pete and Terry, who were supposed to come today. Anyway, that's what's happening here, and I'll talk a lot more about it tomorrow. Because it'll still be happening tomorrow. We do have internet, so I'll be able to upload my video this morning. But the big story is my dad's funeral. It turned out wonderful. It was wonderful. It started out not wonderful. So there was a pastor associated with the funeral home, and we couldn't get somebody from the Unitarians. So we said, okay, we'll take your pastor, because we didn't have anybody. Well, he talked to John, and all John said to him was, we want time for people to be able to talk and tell stories. Well, he's a Christian pastor. He's doing a funeral, of course. He's doing, and he's in the arms of Jesus, and all this religious stuff, which we're not religious. My dad wasn't religious. it's not his fault, obviously. He's doing a very nice service for our dad, but completely inappropriate for my dad. I mean, the whole audience, if you call them audience, we're looking at each other, and like, I'm looking at John, he's looking at me, my kids are looking, Jason and Allison are looking at each other. Everybody's like, oh, this doesn't sound like Jack. And after about 5 minutes, my brother John jumps up and says, let me interrupt. Dad's really not that religious, so I think, I forget exactly what he said. But the minister got the message, and he said, well, can I do my homily? It's not particularly religious. And we said, sure. So he did his homily. And then we talked. I didn't see him afterwards. I kind of had to skip out, so I hope we didn't offend him too much. But Leslie talks about interviewing the families, and learning about the person. John. He didn't ask John any questions about my dad. So I blame them both. But anyway, so after the pastor was finished, I got up and I talked a little bit, and I just thanked everybody for coming, and talked about my dad being a great storyteller. Not necessarily a good storyteller, because you often had to back up and piece things together because things didn't make sense until you figured out the connections and stuff. So he's not necessarily a good storyteller always, but he was definitely a great storyteller. And of course I started tearing up, and Leslie had given me advice that if you start tearing up, to look up rather than down, and that helped clear things. And so, of course, I started tearing up, and I started looking up, and I said, my friend Leslie conducts funerals. She told me to look up when I started crying. So I announced it to everybody. And so everybody was looking up when they were telling their stories about my dad and started crying. They were looking up. I'm like, oh, look up. Anyway, so I told I talked just for a little while. Then my brother John, who's a real talker, I mean, he's really his father's son, storyteller. He's talking and talking and talking, but I'm sitting there and I'm correcting him because he's getting the story wrong, and people are laughing. And yeah, and that was all about Daddy's storyteller and a little bit of his life, and but what we're really celebrating here is a love story and talking about his relationship with my mother. And yeah, it was really, really nice. And when he was done, he said, would anyone else like to tell a story about our dad? And so many people talked, and so many people told great stories. And it was so joyous and wonderful, celebrating his life. Hold on, I got to look up. It was wonderful. And two of the ladies that sat at his table at Harmony were able to come. The one lady's daughter brought them to the funeral. I was so glad to see them there. And I saw them yesterday because we went to see my mother. And I thanked them again for coming. That it was so special that they came. And Helen said, it was the best funeral I've ever been to. Usually they're all solemn and people, and sad, and, and this was wonderful. And it was just like your dad. And it was so nice. It was so nice. My cousin was there. I hardly got a chance to talk to her. She was supposed to come to the dinner afterwards, but she couldn't. And that was a shame. Well, what happened was I ordered the food I didn't leave enough time. So I kind of had to leave. Right. Well, it was already, 6 o'clock. So it had been an hour. But I had to go leave to meet the girl who was bringing the food to the picnic. Well, it turns out I didn't know where the picnic really was. I used my GPS, took me to the wrong entrance to the park. I was in the wrong place. She went to the right place, but there was nobody there. She tried to call me, but I turned my phone off because I was in a funeral. Anyway, it was like the Three Stooges try to figure out the food. Finally, everybody's done, and I'm talking to people, and John tells me where to go, and she knows. And we caravan after the food lady back to the correct place so we can have a nice place to eat. It was, Jason's telling the girls, it's an adventure. Anyway, but the food turned out to be good, and the picnic place was lovely and better than the one I was at, and the weather was great. A couple people who were in their heavy, sort of funeral clothes were uncomfortable, but the rest of us changed. The rest of us planned for this picnic and changed, and it was breezy and lovely, and it worked out fine. But it was such a wonderful service. It was such a wonderful service. The whole place was full. We haven't even unpacked the car. I have to find the guest book and see how many people were there. But, they filled up all the chairs they put out. There were more chairs we could have put out if we needed to, but there were at least 60 people there. And this is for a guy who hasn't been active in the community for 10 years, But they told wonderful stories. Stories of him as a winemaker, stories of him as a friend, stories of him as a supervisor. He was a township supervisor for quite a few years. Just all the different aspects of his life had people there and telling stories about him, and it was really wonderful. Really wonderful. So the picnic was also wonderful. And then we went back to our hotel. Thank you, Susan. I took extra chairs. I needed the extra chairs. Susan suggested my, little living room may not have enough chairs, and she was right. I told my brother Tim the wrong hotel, so he wasn't staying at our hotel. To be fair, I thought I was staying at the other one too, and that's where I went first. I'm like, oh no, that's not the right name, and I went back and found ours. But so he was in the wrong hotel, so he still had to drive afterwards, but it worked out fine. The girls got to go swimming, and we sat around and drank wine and talked, and we didn't really talk too much about Daddy at that point. We were just enjoying the six of us being together, 7 counting Ella, because Dennis hasn't been participating very much in my state college life. He stays home with his mother and the dogs. I think he hasn't been there with my family since Christy's wedding, which is coming up on 3 years ago. So it was the first time in a long time, and Dennis had been friends with my brothers before he even met me, so they're old friends, and it was really nice to sit around and talk and drink Dennis's wine, and it was wonderful, really wonderful, and I never expected it to be wonderful, And then Jason and Allison and the girls and Dennis and I went to visit my mother, and we had a lovely little visit with my mother, and the girls were so sweet with her and interacting with her in such a sweet way. It was such a nice visit. It wasn't very long, only about 45 minutes. But, it was a wonderful visit with her. So she didn't come to the service. We decided that it was better for her not to come, but everybody went to visit her the next day, so she got to see everybody who came, except my cousin Angela had to leave, so that was a shame. But meanwhile, it was all I could have asked for, so I was very, very pleased. Now I got a giant envelope of mail from Harmony. They've been holding it for Daddy. I went to the bank, you know, so I started doing the executor things. And I'll go through this envelope, and it's mostly junk mail. So, you know, that I need to start making sure that everybody knows. Close things down, pay final bills. I think I told you this. He's been in dispute with his physical therapy company over some bills for my mother that he claims were duplicates. But I think he claimed that he had, you know, exclaimed that to his audience at his apartment. I don't think he ever called them and said these are duplicate bills. He just didn't pay them. He just refused to pay them and declared them duplicates. And I said, Daddy, you know I'm going to have to pay this bill when you're gone. He said, I know, but I'm not paying it. I'm like, okay, I'm just telling you. I know I'm going to have to pay it. So I have some bills to pay. That reminds me, I need to text my brother. He was going to cancel his last credit card and cancel his cable. And yeah. But he left wonderful memories for many, many people. Many, many people. My ex-husband and his wife sent beautiful flowers, which was lovely. Because, of course, he's their kid's grandfather. But I thought that was really sweet. And an old friend, my sister has a friend, they've been friends since high school. They moved in next door to us when I was a kid. And the three girls, and Christy and Kristen, have stayed friends for all these years. And the Starkey girls sent flowers, which I thought was really sweet. So I need to send Christy the thank you notes. We got stationery. See, I didn't realize we were getting stationery. So we got thank you notes from the funeral home. We, you know, paid for stationery, which included thank you notes. So I'll send her some thank you notes and some brochures so that she can send them to say thank you. I'll let her do that. So anyway, so I have things to do. Today, we're not going to be very physical because we are going to be hot. It's going to be hot in the house. We are definitely going to have to open up the house tonight once the temperature drops so that we will be okay tomorrow. Yeah. But anyway, and you know, so we canceled the cleaners. Christy and Rich are supposed to come tomorrow. I'm pretty sure they're coming tomorrow, and they'll get here and we won't have any power in their bedrooms, but we'll have a fan on down here, and we've got extension cords. So we have fans. We can extension cord from our bedroom to their bedroom or something. Because of course our bedroom, we have our ceiling fan, we have plugs, and we have, but you know, but we don't have the lights in our bathroom. You know, it's like we really had to pick and choose what we were gonna put on that little panel. So the guest rooms didn't make the cut, and unfortunately that's where Aura is. So she'll come down and we'll sit here and have the fan on us, and we'll be fine. We'll be fine. Her new chair is electric. It doesn't work when the power's out, but it's plugged into a live generator plug, so she can get in and out. Her elevator chair has a battery, so even when we're not running the generator, we can run that chair up and down. So that's good. So we'll be fine. We just won't have air conditioning or cooking. We'll have to grill or whatever, you know, eat cold cuts, salad, things like that. So it'll be fine. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Yeah. So if they're right and they don't come back up till 11 o'clock tomorrow night, they will have been out for 52 hours. And what happened last night was the wind for 5 minutes was blowing like crazy. Blowing like crazy. I mean, really, really windy, really strong winds for like 5 minutes. Then right above us, thunderstorm and pouring rain for 10 minutes. And that was it. And then it was a little bit windy. And now it's still a little bit of a breeze on the leaves and bright blue skies. It was 5 minutes of really strong winds, and I'm sure it took down many trees, you know. But it was pretty widespread, the power outage in my county. So, like I said, tens of thousands of people without power. We're a little bit at the end of our power line, so we're often late getting our power back. It's like our power line dead ends in the street right below us. And then there's a road, but that road is on a separate line because they often have power on 282, which is just, 300 yards away from us when we still don't have power. So it'll be fine. It'll be fine. Yeah. It was really wonderful. An appropriate end, an appropriate celebration. And I was really pleased. And I wasn't sure how it was reading in the crowd, but Helen said it was wonderful. And she was so happy that she went. So that made me happy too. And to be fair, funerals are for the people who survive. And I'm sure there were quite a few religious people in that room who were comforted by the religious part of the service from Pastor Bob. So everybody got a little something, and and I think it worked out beautifully. So, and we had a lovely family time, and yeah. So my heart is quite content. I will take my father's advice. I think I told you this. He told my brother, you're going to be sad, but don't be sad for very long. He was very ready. I thought I might get through that without pausing. No. Anyway, I'm going to go and hope that I think there shouldn't be any problem uploading this because our internet is up. So, we have our priorities. The TV doesn't work, but the computers work, So, and Dennis will just have to keep an eye on the generator, and we have to go get more gas. So we may be wandering around trying to find more gas, because gas stations don't work without power. Although we lose our power often enough that any gas station in or near us must have a generator, or they'd be foolish, so. All right, I'm going to upload this. I don't see why I wouldn't be able to do a vlog tomorrow, but I don't expect to have power tomorrow. So if I don't do a vlog tomorrow, it's because, I don't know, we ran out of gas. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Please take good care of yourselves. Please, please, please stay safe and stay safe.